As Cole said last year, we're back after a month off. We're back with the Sam and Cole podcast. Great to have you with us, Sam Kabar's Cole Pepper, and we'll after this month-long hiatus to kind of look at what was going on. We have now garnered enough new information to
finally
have a podcast, and obviously it has
not only that, but neither one of us is traveling, which we've
right.
been quite a bit of in January and February.
Exactly. But Super Bowl, Senior Bowl, a lot of things with that. Armada have kicked off their friendlies, and a lot to talk about. Once again, thanks to Champion Cycling for their continued support. I was by the shop the other day, talked to Phil, and they've had a good year, not just in selling bikes, but service, and some of it's in response to a lot of our listeners. So thanks for supporting those guys, a local company that we always have enjoyed their company, and certainly you can at any one of their three locations, are Arlington, the Beach, or Mandarin. Cole, where do you want to start? Pick a topic. We can go in any direction.
I just want to point out that it is ridiculously cold in Jacksonville, and has been this week. And I'm sure the people who are in town for the curling championships are wondering what the heck they're doing in Florida when they could have the same kind of weather in most of the states where they do curling usually.
And they probably feel right at home.
Yeah, there's guys walking around in shorts going, yeah, this is good. I actually got a have you ever curled, by the way?
No, I was at the Super Bowl, so I didn't get a chance to do that at the media day, but I've been told that I can come by on Saturday and maybe get a chance to throw the rock. But
so I went by today to do a little story with one of the reporters from WJCT Radio, and talked to one of the guys whose team is leading, and actually got to sort of learn to curl thing. You go over there, they give you a couple of pointers. Most people, about half the people are falling on their backsides or wobbling all over the place. And, I've always kind of thought of curling as if there was a chance that I could be an Olympian.
That might be it.
That might be it. And there is photographic evidence, Sam. If you check my Twitter, I retweeted a video that was shot of my throw of the stone, actually through 3, but this is the one that was caught on video, and I'll let you judge for yourself. I might have the perfect physique for a high level curler.
I know for a fact that you have the perfect attitude.
That's yes.
I do know that,
especially in the post match gatherings. Let's start with the Jaguars.
That is pretty neat that the national championships are here.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I don't care what it is, curling, tiddlywinks, or whatever. They pick your town, and that's a lot of work. You talk to Joel Lamp with the city, and you talk with it's a lot of work to get, not only to bid on that, but to get it and then to pull it off. And our weather's going to get fine. Boy, by the end of the week, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
And anytime the few times that the NCAA tournament has been here, people leave here with just a wonderful impression of Jacksonville. Mike Krzyzewski brought that up very specifically the last time they were here, about how well they were treated and how great the facility was and their accommodations and just all the things that go into the experience of going somewhere and playing for some sort of championship. And we know how to do that. And that's really neat that curling is here.
Jacksonville, the city, does a very good job of it. And I will give kudos to Joel, who really sort of, powers the operations of a lot of these things when they happen. And sometimes it's about negotiating at a high level with the ruling bodies of different groups or whatever, but you still got to organize it and pull it off. And Joel does a great job with that. So
absolutely,
it's fun to go over there and do that. So Jaguar, let's start with Jaguars.
All right.
And
why don't you go all the way back to the state of the franchise?
That's exactly where I wanted to start.
Right.
First of all, that has become an event that usually has some big reveal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think there was much big reveal other than artist renderings of things that we already knew were happening. There wasn't like big vision for the next thing. We've seen in the past, even the cover, the retractable roof for the stadium and all these other things. I kind of was disappointed there wasn't that big thing, that big next big idea in there.
I think part of that though, Cole, was how dramatically different the drawings were that are going to happen for the practice field and the amphitheater or whatever they want to call it at this point. How it's going to be turned around, and then Shad was able to reveal and make news on the TV show that we did that night that they're going to build that walkway across Bay Street there, and they're going to build a hotel over at Metropolitan Park.
See that, and that's what I wanted. I was just going to go to that because that's what I would have wanted to see.
Right.
Even just a little teaser, a little something in that. It was great for you to have it.
I was going to say, I think they were saving it for their partner.
Yeah, and that's great for you to have that on the TV show. But I kind of wanted to see that. The other thing, of course, that came out of that is raising ticket prices and
3.6%.
Right, which
for about 60% of the season ticket holders, which is a hard sell for a team that's won 14 games in 4 years.
Exactly, a very hard sell. And I'll be interested to. I think people have a generally better feeling about the direction of the Jaguars, although it's about a 50-50 bet with Jaguars fans about whether they are excited or skeptical about Gus Bradley at this point. Mm-hmm. I think they feel a sense of optimism based on the offense, based on the passing game, I should say. And that's a big part of it too. But as we learned in the Super Bowl, you also in this day and age of the NFL, you've got to have the pass rushers, and
you hope that Caldwell watched the Super Bowl.
I would think he probably might have.
What might be the formula to winning games? Not necessarily going out there and winning the Super Bowl right away, but you win games. You've got to have guys that pressure a quarterback. Denver did it 2 games in a row: the championship game against Tom Brady, and then the title game against Cam Newton.
And also against Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely, and that's one of the keys. You've got to go out there and have guys who can disrupt the timing of what's going on, make the quarterback make decisions. Tom Brady was hit more than any other quarterback was hit in a single game all year long, and Cam Newton looked completely kind of unhinged from his regular game because of not just the way those guys rushed, but not how ferocious they were, but the way they did it in terms of really were very disciplined in containing him from running the football, getting outside the pocket, stuff like that.
Yeah, and Von Miller's a free agent. My guess is that Denver is going to try everything they can to keep him. Denver's
I don't know that there's a way that the Super Bowl MVP can get away from his team.
Well, I don't know. Ask Dwight. Didn't that happen with Dwight? Was it Dwight Smith? Was that his name? Who was the guy for
Larry Smith?
Larry Smith,
who went to the Raiders and his career promptly ended.
Now, Von Miller's a little different cat. I mean, he was the second pick of the draft. He was a stud in college
after Cam Newton.
Yeah,
right?
He's been a stud in the NFL, so that's a little different thing. And remember, if Peyton Manning retires, Denver's whole approach might get different. So we'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. Well, and I really have a feeling that he will, by the way.
Absolutely. And, if you talk to football insiders, they're looking at what Denver is going to try to do with their cap space.
Yeah.
And if they decide to keep Miller, then there are some guys on that team that are not going to be there. And I think they're anticipating Peyton not being there, but there are other players on that team that are going to have to get paid, that if they pay Miller, they're going to have to abandon that plan. And those guys are going to be gone.
Well, there's some guys too on that team that didn't perform the way you would necessarily want to in a lot of ways in the Super Bowl. And you can't put, one game is not a decision. It's not going to. The whole decision is going to hinge on one game. But when it's the Super Bowl, it stands out larger in your head. Demaryius Thomas didn't look like he had anything in the tank. And Josh Norman shut it down.
In the entire playoffs.
Yeah. Aqib Talib, who I'd like to excommunicate from the Kansas Alumni Association, if I may, for his continued boneheadedness.
He is kind of a boneheaded guy. Isn't he?
He is. Oh, he completely is.
Good, tremendously talented.
Oh, yes.
But even after you grab the running back by the face mask, and it's obvious that anybody who knows anything about football that you did that on purpose. You kept him from scoring. There's all kinds of things. Don't brag about it 2 days after the game.
Right. So that's a guy who might be, we'll see what happens there. If I'm the Jaguars and I'm approaching free agency, I assume that Dante Fowler is not going to be an impact player, right? I think you have to assume that he's not. I'm not saying he's not going to, but I think you have to make the assumption that he's not in terms of the way you approach free agency. And I think you've got to find probably 2 pass rushers to supplement what's happening out there. And if Fowler winds up showing the promise that made him a high pick, then okay, more the better. But tell me a team that says, gosh, we've got too many pass rushers.
Yeah, no one said ever.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that you look at and you go, okay, anything you get out of Fowler in essence his rookie year is a bonus. You hope to have a push up the middle with Senderick Marks as that is part of your thought process. You've got some tackles, you've got guys who can kind of play, but you need some edge stars.
Yeah.
And one of them can perhaps come from the draft, although again, those guys that step into the league have to learn some things about it. And with the 5th pick overall, the Jaguars will have the opportunity to take somebody there who will be who will be a player on defense that can go ahead and absolutely rush the passer. He may not be able to do anything else his first year, but if you let him loose to rush the passer, that's just fine.
And by the way, usually rookies don't make a huge impact in terms of rushing the passer.
That's right. But
Javon Curse might, but most guys don't.
Right. So, but you're right. With their first draft pick, with a couple of different signees in free agency, with Fowler coming back, you hope that you've at least addressed that issue to where maybe one of these guys that you get, unnamed guys, has a bit of a breakout year and really is able to benefit from that.
Ryan Davis or a,
right,
Chris Smith or whoever, right?
Right. A guy who's got some speed, who knows your system. Now, the other thing is, and Caldwell has told me this, that with Shad's edict to win now, they're going to spend money differently in free agency.
Well, they have to anyway, right?
Right. I mean, first of all, they got to spend it.
Yeah.
Second of all, you've got you've got to have players that can help you now, not players that you're looking at to develop. Players that can help you now. By the way, your dog doesn't bother me at all.
The dog is insistent on going outside, even though she's been outside 3 times since I've been home.
Of course, it's chilly.
Well, the other thing is, a dachshund, and apparently there's somebody in a mustard costume standing outside. I'd also say that whatever that number is, 29 million or whatever the number is, where they have to spend up to that. Some of that can be restructuring existing guys, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of that spending. I'd get Allen Robinson signed up to a long-term deal right now. Mm-hmm. I'd get Alan Hearn signed up to a new deal right now.
Yep.
I would get, I don't know, is it time to get Bortles a new deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think you recognize that he's the right guy. So go ahead and get these young players under contract.
Alvin Smith,
and yeah, absolutely, and see what what it would take to, because in the next 5 years you've got to be the most competitive team in the AFC South.
Yes,
for the next 5 years.
Well,
and then you can build behind that. But with those players and whomever you get on defense this year, if you're gonna keep your job as Dave Caldwell and Gus Bradley, those are the players that are going to take you there, and you're going to have to get it, kind of get it done with those players.
No doubt about it. I want to just spend a moment on Cam Newton, if I may. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of talk leading up to the Super Bowl about him doing the dab and dancing too much and all this. And frankly, that stuff didn't bother me. It wasn't taunting. You may find one that you'd say that's a little taunty-ish, but it wasn't taunting. It was celebrating. And I'm okay with it. And as I've said before, you guy scores a touchdown, you're going to celebrate. Well, you know what? The play clock is running to get off the extra point. So you do that at your team's own peril, right? Same deal with getting a first down. If you're going to dance around a lot and do the Superman reveal and the first down sign, the whole bit. Well, as long as you get back and take the snap and fine. That's why the play clock is there. That polices that. So I thought that he got a lot of heat from people for that, and did throughout the year. Had a great year, obviously, but the week of the Super Bowl, there was a lot of things. There were people that were really standing up for Cam. Not the least of which being Tom Jackson, who said on ESPN's pregame show on Super Bowl Sunday, late morning, I guess it was when I saw it, said that Cam Newton was the modern Bill Russell or Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, well,
that's a pretty big leap.
That's a big leap. Mm-hmm. And they had the story about Cam giving the ball to the kid whose dad had passed away and that whole bit. And I mean, I know people who live in Charlotte who love him. In fact, my wife's got a friend who named her baby Cam, right? Because mm-hmm. he's a beloved character up there. But the two things that I think are going to really stay with Cam Newton for a long time from this game. Number one, not jumping on the fumble. And whether
still can't figure out what happened there.
I've never seen something like that in football. He
right.
says if he would have jumped, he would have gotten hurt.
That's what he said, right?
That's what he said.
My leg would have been
in a bad position, whatever it was. Yeah. I'm willing to give him half of the benefit of the doubt on that, but it just looked so off that in that moment in the game where basically his chance to win the Super Bowl was going to be dashed if he didn't recover it, and he didn't make an effort to. It's you go, what's going on here? And then the antics in the post-game press conference. And I understand that you've got people over here in earshot bragging about what they've done, but if you're going to be thought of as an elite quarterback in the NFL, which this year he certainly was, there's a different expectation for how you behave. Russell Wilson the year before, by the way, showed how you do a post-game press conference after you lose a disappointing Super Bowl. Do you think that Cam Newton's Super Bowl was more disappointing, Super Bowl loss more disappointing than Russell Wilson?
Right.
The way that they lost it?
When it comes down to it, we have an expectation of our athletes to act a certain way when they're not successful. And part of the American sporting psyche is to give credit to the other team when you're defeated. And his excuse that I'm a sore loser, I told you I was a sore loser, doesn't excuse that. But I was told all year long by numerous analysts and fans and that I needed to accept his celebrating and all that. Not that I criticized it, but this is what I was told. I never asked, I never said anything about it, but I was told all year by everybody, look, this guy's a transcendent player. He's a transformational player. He's going to change the way the game is. This celebration, this joy that he has in the game, he's bringing something different. You need to accept that, accept him for who he is, which he backed up in his day after the post-game press conference by saying, it's who I am. I'm a sore loser. Okay. Then it's okay for us to say he's a great athlete. He's a tremendous quarterback when things are going right. He brings a lot of joy to the game when things are going right. And he's also a petulant crybaby when he loses. Yeah. So we'll now know how he's going to react depending on what happens in the scoreboard. Because when you lack that ability to kind of accept that that you didn't win the game, when you lack that ability, you're wonderful when things are going right, and you're a petulant crybaby when they're not. So that's we now know that's what it is.
There's a word for that, and petulant crybaby is 2 words for it, but it's a front runner, right?
And that's fine. And I know that that's kind of the way that a lot of things are happening these days in professional sports. That, it goes all the way back when Charles Barkley said, "I am not a role model." These are the things that are changing. That we're told that we have to accept certain changes Tom Jackson saying he's Bill Russell or Muhammad Ali, which I think is kind of silly to say. I mean, way too early to say. He may turn out to be that.
Right.
But I mean, even when Muhammad Ali, as Cassius Clay, beat Sonny Liston, nobody expected him to become this truly transformational figure in American society.
Yep.
I mean, there were still all kinds of things with the Vietnam War and all kinds of things that were going to happen to him that made him what he is in our psyche today.
Right. And I just ask, what if you're going to make that comparison, what has Cam Newton had to overcome at that scale? That he got kicked out of Florida, that he's said, and I'm certain, by the way, that he's experienced racism. I'm certain of that. But
and but you know what? That's everybody, one way or another, black or white. I mean, everybody's had some situation where they were made to feel uncomfortable because of who they are. But he was the person who continued to identify himself as an African American quarterback during Super Bowl week, and I was disappointed in James Brown, who said, "I think it's more generational than it is referring to race." Nobody referred to Doug Williams as an African-American quarterback. As Joe Gibbs told Doug Williams on Monday of Super Bowl, when he was the starting and winning quarterback, you can call yourself whatever you want. Everybody else can call you whatever you want. But let me tell you what you are this week. You're the Washington Redskins starting quarterback. Okay. After that, none of that matters to me. But this is what your role is this week.
And there's some irony to the fact that he was playing for the Redskins at the time and trying racial connections there. So I, by the way, just for the record, I thought that Carolina would win. And
I picked Denver outright. I took them with the points and I took them outright, which, by the way, paid 3-1.
All right, yeah.
But I just thought that all week long people continue to focus on Cam Newton, Peyton Manning.
I did. I was going to say that's exactly the trap I fell into, and I didn't pay enough close attention to Denver's
defense. Was the difference in the game. Yeah.
Quick word on college basketball, if we may here.
All right.
This year is the most wide open year, and because Florida's not in that top 25, there's not a ton of local attention being paid. But it's the most wide open year in terms of the top 10, top 15. I think there are about a dozen teams that could win the national championship, all based solely on who happens to get hot at the right time, which I think is going to make a very interesting March Madness.
You ever keep old Sports Illustrateds around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you can find the one that talks about the preview of the college basketball season, they have North Carolina ranked number 1. Mm-hmm. Kansas is in the top 5. Yeah. It's interesting because the guy who wrote the article kind of wrote a synopsis at the end of it, and he said, here's the thing about this year. You take any one of those top 5 teams and put them at number 1. In fact, you can probably any one of these top 10 teams probably have a chance. He said the difference is, while that particular part of it is shallow, the rest of it's very deep. Don't be surprised if a team like Miami, who I have ranked 25th, all of a sudden is a top 10 team. Mm-hmm. And he turned out to be prophetic because, as you said, it's not Michigan State, it's not Kansas, it's not Maryland, it's not North Carolina, it's all of them.
Yeah.
And if they catch their stride, and us Terps fans are hoping, based on the talent they have on that team, that Mark Turgeon figures out how to get these guys going, that any one of those teams, as you said, that gets hot March 1st has a real good chance of winning it.
Simmons from LSU is going to be the number 1 pick, but the best college basketball player in the country is Buddy Hield at Oklahoma, and he's a guy who can make a difference. Yeah. Lastly here, I know you've got to go off and do the sports here, but Saturday, Armada and Orlando City, and I am really looking forward to that atmosphere because I'm already told that Orlando City is going to bring bought well over 400 tickets from one of their supporters groups, just from that supporters group. So there will be people who will be coming up or who are ordering online or whatever. And Orlando City thinks that their fans think that they own the state of Florida because they're the only MLS team in town. So I'm not sure this is really a rivalry yet, but I'm interested to see what the atmosphere is going to be like.
I'll tell you, I like everything that Tony Meola has said so far. And I like that. And Kevin's telling me it's time to go.
Oh, go do it.
We're in the break. All right.
You go do it. I'll wrap it up. You can follow
All right.
Sam on Twitter at Sam Kavaris. Follow me on Twitter at Cole Pepper. And we thank you for tuning in to the Sam and Cole podcast, brought to you, as always, by our friends at Champion Cycling. 3 locations, Arlington, Mandarin, and the Beach. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Sam and Cole podcast.